Hey everyone, Kneecap here. This morning I stumbled upon the data mined patch notes for the next World of Warcraft patch. So I'm going to go over what that means for each class, what you can expect. I've heard some rumors that maybe some of the stuff wasn't final, but it's probably going to give you a general idea of what Blizzard is thinking for your class and your spec. Obviously, it looks like the most changes are to like Demon Hunters and even Mage down here. But anyways, I digress. Credit to MMO Champion. This is where I got this from. So go give them a look too. Uh, Achievements: Broken Isle Pathfinder rank 1 now properly displays the amount of mounted speed increase. So that's just kind of a tooltip bug. The speed was fine. It's just going to tell you the speed that you're going now. Um, this is just developers' notes. Next scheduled weekly maintenance period is when this will be applied. So we'll start with Death Knight. Frost, Ramosis, Winter damage increased. Obliterate damage increased. Frost Strike increased. Howling Blast increased. Frost Scythe increased. Frozen Pulse increased. Breath of Sindragosa damage increases 17%. So basically a huge buff for Frost Death Knights. Obviously your damage is going to go up at least 10% by all these things, but I'd imagine much more. So that's a nice big buff for Frost Death Knights. I know they weren't super strong, so that'll be a help. Let's see what they did to Demon Hunters here. Havoc, Throwglaive damage reduced, um, Fell Mastery talent damage bonus to Fell Rush reduced, Bloodlet now deals 100% initial, so it's 30% reduced. Fury of Illidari reduced. So if you're a Havoc Death Knight, it looks like you're getting nerfed pretty badly. Your DPS is super high, so it probably will just put you in line with some other people. Um, in Vengeance, Mastery now provides 50% less damage reduction per point, so you're going to be taking more damage. Demon Spike's damage reduction increased to 20%, which is really good for you Demon Hunter tanks. So while your Mastery is worse, your Demon Spikes is better. Um, Gearing heavily for Mastery is allowing Vengeance Demon Hunters to reach excessively high levels of physical damage reduction. So that's why they're getting rid of that. Druid's pretty short here. Moonfire non-feral damage increased, so as long as you're not feral, your Moonfire is going to be doing more. And Boomkins got generally buffed. Sunfire, Starfall, Lunar Strike, and Solar Wrath all increased. Mage, there's quite a few mage notes here. Uh, Mastery effects increased by 20. Arcane Missiles increased by 9. Arcane Blasts increased. So Arcane got buffed. Frostbolt damage increased by 8. Ice Lance increased. And Flurry damage increased. Blizzard damage increased. Splitting Ice increased. Ice Nova increased. Ray of Frost increased. So Frost got a huge buff, probably making them more viable. Looks like they left Fire alone, which is good because I feel like Fire was working the way it is. Let's see what the Hunter is. Hunter Barrage, non-survival damage reduced. Beast Mastery, Bestial Wrath damage bonus increased to 25%. Survival, so a couple abilities increased, and Barrage reduced. Um, Not huge changes there for Hunter, so you're mostly the same as you were before. Monk just has one note. The Spinning Crane Kick and Mistweaver, the damage has been reduced by 25%. Not a huge deal, but it is a very minor nerf. Paladin, it's all ret, and it's all a buff. Templar's Verdict damage increased by 10. Divine Storm damage increased by 20. Crusader Strike damage increased by 13%. Blade of Justice increased by 13%. Judgment increased by 13%. Zeal increased by 13%. Blade of Wrath increased by 13%. Just a general buff to ret. They needed it. Priest, looks like Holy Nova damage reduced. And Shadow, Mind Seer damage and Insanity Generation increase. Void Form stacks no longer increase while Dispersion and Void Torrent are active. There's a lot of notes here. I'll let you read those if you want. Rogue, Death from Above talent, area damage increased by 100%. So that's just a talent buff. Deadly Poison damage increased. Fan of Knives increased. Artifact trait, Bag of Tricks, duration reduced to 3 seconds. Damage is the same, just a shorter time for it to happen. Poison Knives no longer benefit from mastery. Damage per point increased by 4%. Outlaw, Fatebringer, Artifact trait, energy cost reduction. A lot of the changes to Rogue are artifact traits, except for Subtlety. Subtlety got a general buff, it looks like, which is really cool. Shaman, here's the big thing. We have an elemental shaman in my guild. Mastery effects increased 12.5%. Chain Lightning Maelstrom generation increased to 6. Lightning Bolt damage increased by 23. Chain Lightning 23%. Lava Burst even increased by 5%, which is huge because it's a crit move. Storm Elemental, Call Lightning and Wind Gust damage increased by 20%. And enhancement, they fixed a bug that gave offhand special attacks 100% chance to activate Wind Fury while Doom Winds was active. Now, Wind Fury activation chance is increased to 20%. Note we're fixing a bug. Again, I'll let you read those on your own. Chain Lightning, Restoration, damage increase. So if you're Resto and you want to throw some AoE, you will have a little bit more damage there. Warlock, there's a lot of Warlock nodes. Drain life, basically Affliction gets a little buff, it looks like. Corruption damage increased by 10%. Agony damage increased. Haunt damage increase. So Affliction just gets a buff all the way around, kind of like Ret. Demonology, damage impact from Hand of Gul'dan increased by 20%. Demon Wrath increased by 15%. Doom increase. Looks like a general buff for Demonology from everything. Destruction is also actually buffed, which I don't think they needed it really. I've seen some really good Warlocks out there. Let's check out Warrior if they did anything with Fury, and it looks like they will. Exploit weakness, artifact trait reduced, focus rage damage bonus reduced. So Arm's got a very minor nerf, probably just to even up with Fury. Rampage damage is increased, just an increase across the board by pretty much every move in the rotation. And protection is also a minor buff to your abilities. Alright, these are look like their PvP changes. Battlegrounds. Tank specialized characters no longer take additional damage while carrying a flag. That's pretty cool. Blood consumption, artifact abilities, healing is no longer reduced in PvP. Death Strike now factors in 50% of recent damage taken from players when determining its healing amount. Previously, it ignored damage taken from players. Havoc. Fury of Illidari damage is now reduced by 10% in PvP, up from a 30% reduction. Vengeance. Soul Cleaver heal is no longer reduced in PvP. Basically letting you be pro at PvP is what it's looking like. Restoration. Live Blooms Bloom, and this is for Druid. Increased by 50%. Critical Strike stat reduced by 50%. Haste stat increased by 50%. Guardian. Prodigy Regeneration now factors 50% of recent damage taken from players. Previously ignored damage taken from players. So yeah, that's going to help a lot for that tank. Survival Hunter. Mongoose Fury now increases the damage Mongoose fights by 35% per stack in PvP, up from 25. Beastmaster Agility stat reduced by 10%, a little nerf there. Frostbolt now reduces moves by 50. Damage increased by 10% in PvP, which is actually a nerf. Fire, Honor Talent, Whirl in Flames reduction to Flame Strike's cast time reduced to 2 seconds. Monk, Mistweaver, Counteract Magic, bonus to Renewing Mist reduced to 150%. Windwalker, Strike of the Windlord, artifact ability, damage is now reduced by 30% in PvP. Agility stat increased by 12%. And for Paladin, Retribution, Strength stat got reduced. Protection, reduced the healing for protection. Nothing for Holy Paladin on either of these. Priest, Discipline, Atonement healing is now increased by 15%. A lot of these ones are kind of boring. I'll let you read the PvP ones for yourself if you like. Uh, Class halls. Druids with evergreen perks should no longer have their planted soils reset. I've heard people experiencing that. Dungeons and raids. Fixed a bug. This is important. Fixed a bug where players would fall to their death after jumping into the Rift of Vaughn while mounted. Warlocks will now be able to target their soul effigies when fighting Il'gynoth inside the Heart Chamber. Ursoc no longer causes players to stand up and interrupt their eating drinking when it respawns. And in the Archway, enemy forces will remain in the Archway after players have defeated Advisor Vandros. Tome of Hex, Spider, should now only drop for Shaman when defeating Naltira. And Maul of Souls, players should no longer become stuck inside the cages they're placed in after defeating Yaran. Yeah, that would be good. Items, professions, it should now be possible to reach the skill 800 in blacksmithing. Yeah, I thought that was a little weird. Questing in the Withered Army training scenario, it should be less likely for a lay stalker Dro to be hiding somewhere that he wouldn't normally be encountered by clearing the room. Yeah, I had that happen to me. The new archaeology quest aura is now displayed, and yeah, that's about it. Let's go over real quick who got buffed, who got nerfed. I'll focus more on the PvE because the PvP is a little bit more nuanced, and you'll want to just look that up on your own, anyways, if you're into hardcore arena or RBGs. Death Knight Frost, huge buff. Demon Hunter nerfed, damage nerfed, and tanks a little nerf on mastery, but increase on active mitigation. Druid balance buff. Mage, Arcane, and Frost buffed. Hunter slight buffs to Beast Mastery Survival and a slight nerf to Barrage. Monk, very minimal nerf to Mistweaver. Ret Paladins, buff across the board. Priest, not a lot happened to Priest, to be honest, more notes than anything. Rogue, a little bit of buff on some things, mostly to do with artifact traits for all of them. A lot of artifact traits changes to rogues. Shaman Elemental gets a huge buff. Fix something with your offhand on enhancement, and Restoration Chain Lightning buff. Warlocks got buff across the board, so you're sitting pretty if you're a Warlock, no matter what spec you are. Warrior Arms got a slight nerf, while his Fury got a decent buff. And so, as you can see, it's actually a lot of buffs. There's only a couple nerfs, so not too many people should be mad. Obviously, Demon Hunters, you're going to be mad. Your DPS wasn't crazy anyways, so you'll be fine. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel, share the videos. You guys have a great day.